When we wanted to find out who we are as a country, we jumped into a camper van and went from Bluff to Cape Reinga looking for answers. Here's what we found. Everybody here came from somewhere else. Māori legend tells of waka arriving from Hawaii between 800 and 1,000 years ago. And when the sealers and whalers started arriving, it was truly the beginning of the great New Zealand melting pot. By the time the Treaty of Waitangi was signed, people from across the world were making New Zealand home. Britain saw the country as a blank canvas, and what it wanted was to replicate the mother country. By the 1900s, there were just over 800,000 people in New Zealand, and almost all of those people had British roots. We were a child of the Commonwealth indeed. In Dunedin, we met Ian Farquhar, who was still living on the same piece of land his great-grandfather from Scotland settled on.
Well, it was in the mid-1840s really, when there was a disruption in the Presbyterian Church in Scotland, and there was a breakaway group called the Free Church, and they elected to come here and make a settlement here. But basically the settlement was really a Scottish settlement. Most of the girls' secondary schools, they have a kilt skirt for their school uniform.
By the mid-20th century, New Zealand's immigration policy created a country which mirrored Britain. And yet, those drawn to New Zealand came for the same reasons people come today. The same reasons that drew Dietmar Schnar and his family in Blenheim.
When you move to this side of the world, and in Germany, New Zealand is called the most beautiful end of the world. And you have to cut off your homesickness, your family and so on. You still are in connection, but you start a complete new life. New Zealand is home now, for a long time actually. The friendliness and the friendliness towards families, this was a significant point and reason why we moved to New Zealand.
While hope and opportunity are common reasons for moving, they're not what shaped our acceptance of immigrants. 50 years ago, the top 5 countries migrating here were all Commonwealth or European nations. We were uneasy with drawing migrants from outside those European nations. When we turned to the Pacific to resolve a labour shortage, we allowed fears of so-called overstayers to lead to dawn raids on those communities. It changed in 1974. Prime Minister Norm Kirk brought in an immigration policy based on skills and not race. 4 decades on, our migration story is more diverse. India and China now top the list of migrants, people who have brought their own cultures and religions. In Taihape, of all places, a mosque has opened, courtesy of Singaporean expatriate Saifuddin Abu.
It took us a year to decide on doing what we did, and the risk that including leaving our existing family behind. Well, we did research about the existence of the Muslim community here before deciding, and that's one of the factors. And to know that we have a wider network that we could go to if we need any help and support. But it's all for the best. I mean, there's no regrets for us moving to Taihape. I mean, my family, my children love it here.
The composition of our population has changed. 12% of our population identifies with at least one Asian ethnicity now. Almost a quarter of Auckland's population identifies with an Asian ethnicity. Among those people is Joyce Liu, who moved here from China 10 years ago and has the most evocative way of describing what it means to her to be a New Zealander.
Suddenly I found my brain being opened, my mindset being changed. I understand more who I am. I think that the free of thinking is a key or core value of New Zealander, because here is such a free land and we have so good backup by our government. So we dare to dream. Once you dare to dream, then you dare to do a lot of things that you never imagined to do while you were in other places, because that's the land. That's why I can say, oh, because I dare to dream, so I'm a New Zealander.